It's time for the Legal Minute with Martin Harding and Mazzotti. 1-800-LAW-1010 in for Paul Harding. It is the Ben Man this morning.
Hey, Ben.
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Mary.
Good morning.
All right, so we found an interesting story about police checking if you're texting and driving and, like, checking you out from bridges and stuff
Like
now.
unique ways of catching you.
Yeah, they are clever. This ultimately is happening in Vermont quite a bit. They're using... Police are disguising themselves as roadside workers.
Yeah.
They are sitting up in large trucks so that they can kind of peer down through the windows to see if people are using their cell phone. As your listeners know, there was a law passed in 2014 that prohibits the use of handheld electronic devices. Kids under the age of 18 can't use any electronic device. No texting. You can use hands-free calling. But ultimately, in response to what are, in my opinion, staggering statistics on nationally and statewide on the loss of life and the serious bodily injury that's caused by drivers who are distracted at the wheel.
See it all the time.
Yeah.
Because of electronic devices, the state police have really ramped up their efforts.
Good.
And to ramp up their efforts, they're using vantage points that are non-traditional vantage points to detect people who are using their cell phones. And quite frankly, it's absolutely legal.
I saw a cop standing on top of the whale tails the other day.
On top of them?
Right on top of the tail on his tippy toes.
Idiot.
And you know what?
Binoculars.
If they have permission to be on that property, they can do it. They can, scout you out from the rooftops. They can get in Mack trucks. They can do whatever they need to do, quite frankly, as long as they have the right to be on the property from which they're viewing you from.
Interesting.
They can do that. And quite frankly, when you take a look at the statistics, I think most people who are abiding by the law would say they should do it because this particular problem is really approaching a level where we're having a national crisis. There's a lot of people being really hurt, maimed, and ultimately there's a lot of roadside fatalities that are directly attributable to texting, calling, and basically driver inattention.
Is there any way that if I see it happening that I can call?
Sure. There's nothing that would prohibit any well-meaning citizens from reporting. The issue then becomes an evidentiary issue. In court, the officer can certainly pull somebody over. Police officers don't have a right.
Unless they're like my mom and they're on the phone the whole, they'll be on the phone hours later when the cops pull her over. She'll still be on the phone.
Right. So there are some exceptions to the rule. If she's calling law enforcement agency to report somebody else, there's probably an exception to that. But yeah, people can report it. I don't know if that ends up being productive in terms of what the police are looking to do to enforce it, because generally it has to be the police's observation that would support the traffic infraction.
Because I have had a couple of people weave towards me because they were on their cell phone. They were looking down. Yeah. It was really scary. It didn't cross the line, but it was close enough where my heart started palpitating. I was like, oh.
And there's a few people that she just wants to call the police on.
Like Mike.
Well, there's absolutely nothing that prevents you from reporting, a crime or an infraction if you see them, Yeah. So, I think it's a really serious issue. I think
it is.
Education is key. I think enforcement is the second step, but really, a lot of people acknowledge that distracted driving is a problem. Yet statistics show that, at least with kids anyways, 18 years and younger, 35% of them still engage in the practice of using electronic devices while they're driving.
Yep.
And yet 94% of them admit that there's a problem with it.
We can't stand it when we see it when we're out there driving around. Hey, man, thank you for an interesting legal minute this week. And,
really important one, I think.
Good for law enforcement for doing what they got to do to help this.
Yeah, thank you guys.